loosely. Next, we install the trigger wheel tools. Using a couple of bolts from the upper timing cover, you screw this in, turn the trigger wheel till the pin goes through the hole in the trigger wheel. This is what it looks like from a top view. Bank 2 goes on the same way. Turn the trigger wheel till it fits into the pin, or the pin fits into the trigger wheel hole, I mean. Tighten up the bolts. Now you torque the nut to 29.5 foot-pounds. The same for this side. Now it's time to remove the trigger wheel alignment tools, the cam lock blocks, and the flywheel crank pin. We're going to turn the engine over by hand 2 or 3 times, then put it back at top dead center, lock the flywheel, and put the cam trigger wheel tools back on to make sure the holes line up. The bolts for my trigger wheel tools are long enough so that I can just back them out without completely removing it. When you take off the cam lock blocks at the back, bank 2 should slide right off. Bank 1, the intake cam will turn to the right when you remove the timing, the cam block. That's normal. The crank pin is now pulled. We turn the engine over clockwise 2 or 3 turns using a ratchet with a 27mm socket. While you're doing this, you'll notice the intake cams will jump, which is normal action due to the Vanos. The crank is now pinned, and now it's time to put the lock blocks back on the cams. The intake cam will need to be rotated to get the block on. Next, we put the trigger alignment tool back on and screw in the bolts and make sure that the pin slides into the hole, which it does. So this side's good to go. Now we check the other side. So I've put the cam block on the back of bank 2. This should slip right on without needing to turn the camshaft. Next, we slide in the tool. It slides right into the hole. We're all set to go. Timing's good. Now it's time to remove the tensioner block. But before I do that, I like to tie it up in place so any of the slack can't be pulled down around the crank sprocket and throw your timing off. It can happen, depends on the position of the cams. Here you can see I've removed the lower tensioner block, tied up the tensioner itself with a tie wrap or wire tie, and we'll be putting the upper timing covers on and the rest of the engine parts back on, which this video will not be showing. Thanks to B-Sound Systems, Raj, for lots of info, and the guys over on Beamer Farms, especially Randy